Okay, my first discussion today is about research. We were talking about how we took screen captures and so on from the first day or whatever it was last week and so on. So, still thinking about designs, looking at designs, how can I do research? Well, probably a great place to do research is to do the history. And the history of, and in this talk, it's the history of web design mostly. In that, if you go to a website, it's called archive.org. And of course, a .org is a what is a usually a nonprofit, right? So again, it's called archive.org. And if you're doing research, you can put in a design, and what the archive does is it's been collecting all the data from the internet since '96. So like around 1996. And it works kind of like Google. What it does is it sends a spider out, and that spider goes and finds all the pages and sends back a link to that website, and then it saves it. So let's say you love the West Valley website, and you want to see what it looked like 15 years ago. You can go here and you can see, and then you can see the evolution of the design over years. In fact, in my computer science class, I have the students go and do the research on there and then write about the difference between what the internet was years ago and the internet is today. We don't need to do that here, but I'm just pointing it out. I think it's good research for you to see the evolution of websites and how they evolved over time. Again, if I go to it's called the Wayback Machine up there, and if I type in westvalley.edu, and not .net, .edu here. I don't know what .net is. It'll give you this little timeline here. You can see it here. And basically what this timeline here is when it stored a version of the website on that day. And you can see the map down here. And so, you want to see what the website looked like in 2008. I can click on 2000 let's do 2007. There looks like there was a lot there on 2007. And I can scroll down to March 30th, 2007. Let's look at what West Valley website looked like. I can click on that link there, and the Wayback Machine will go through all its servers, and it will find the website. Hopefully. It takes time, of course. This is a big database. It stores the whole internet on there, everything. And hopefully it comes up. This is in San Francisco, but they do have a mere copy in Canada. They were afraid when Trump came to office that he was going to shut them down, literally. So they actually took the whole archive and they put it in Canada as well. Okay, so here we go. We can see what West Valley looked like in 2007. Green, ugly, look at the drop shadow on the text here. And look, it's links on both sides. It was so confusing for students. Can you imagine if you're trying to sign up for a class? You have links all over here, and you have links all over here. And yes, the person who made the website was one of my students. It's okay. So as you can see, then they have links that go across the top. So it was kind of a mess. And then these are all links too. So the whole page is just like one big link to everything. It was really kind of confusing. But there you go. My whole point is archive.org is a great research tool. You go back in time and you can see, hey, let's go back even further. We're going to go back in time. I don't know where this is. Let's click on this year. Uh-oh. That was a bad one. Not everything works. Is there a way I can go back? Oh, here we go. Let's see, 1998. Here we go. December 2nd, 1998. That was the first year I was here. Oh, missed it. That one didn't work. Not all of them work. There's errors. It's not foolproof. Well, here we go. Oh, there's just a link to the homepage. Look at that. There's nothing but a logo and a link to the homepage, whatever that means. A doorway page of some kind. How about we go to 2000? No, it didn't work. No. Oh, the 10th looks good. It says down here the green indicates a redirect. So most likely the green ones are not going to be good. The blue ones will probably give you a whole page. No, just the logo. Okay.
Because the domain name changed that date, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. How about Yahoo? I always love doing Yahoo. If you remember back in the days, Yahoo was kind of king back in the 90s before Google came along. And of course, Yahoo was never a real search engine. Back in the early days of the internet, or when I mean early days of the World Wide Web, not necessarily the internet, Yahoo was a directory. It was a human-powered directory. Whereas if you wanted to be in Yahoo, you had to submit your website to a certain category. And so you can see those categories. If you go back in time, I remember 1997. Woo! What a pivotal year 1997 was. All kinds of things came out. Frames came out. Programming-wise, there was JavaScript even earlier, but they had Frames that came out in 1997. Frames that gave you the ability to do multiple layers on a web page. There was a lot of technology came out in 1997. I think I clicked on it. Is it doing anything? Maybe I didn't. There it is. Okay, again, this is what Yahoo used to look like back in the 90s. Again, a bunch of text. The internet was slow. But it wasn't really a search engine. When you searched up there, you were searching a directory, which is different than Google. Google is it's all done by computers, right? There's an algorithm out there. There's a spider that goes, reads the website, and then puts it into a database. And then the algorithm searches the index, what they call the index is their database. But this was different. Yahoo was actually, they had human beings in the office, and you would submit your website. And in fact, you had to pay $20 to submit your website to Yahoo, and then they would put you in a category. In fact, the first website I made for real money back then was the Biltmore Hotel in Santa Clara, and so we put it in, I don't know, business, I think, or something like that, under hotels, because there are hotels somehow, but we paid like $20 and we put it in there, but again, it was a directory. It wasn't. But look at the difference in design, of course, and look at the graphics. Wow. Okay, so again, that was the archive. Anything else, of course, if you want, the Wayback Machine is a great way of doing research, but also the archive is for many, many other things. I mean, it has books, it has music, some of the music you can use. If you're looking for copyright-free stuff, you can get some of that stuff here. There's also copyrighted music. Like I'm gonna work on a video on today with the video students, a video on windsurfing. Okay, and I wanted to find some like heavy metal music. I could type it in there. In fact, what I did was I went up here to right here. Instead of doing the Wayback Machine down here, I was looking for really fast music to go along with the windsurfing, and I typed in Metal Church. Metal Church was a band for playing hard, fast music. And when I clicked on it, one of the albums came up right here, and I clicked on it, and then I downloaded this track. Whoosh, I'm gonna turn it down a little. There we go. But I downloaded this track. See, windsurfing. That's what we're gonna do today, Ashley. Windsurfing. Well, windsurfing. I thought this would be good. Okay, so my whole point here is this is not only a directory or a library with all the web pages over history, but it also has books, music. It's like a virtual library that you can use for research. If you remember 2 years ago or last year, I was having you read the Kledinsky book, right? Point, Line, and Plane. I don't know. Most of us didn't read it, but whatever. You know, if you want, famous design books are here as well. Art books are here, just like I just said. Point, line, and plane. If you've never read Point, Line, and Plane, you should look at that. Of course, this was one of the first graphic design books ever made. It is probably the first graphic design book right here. They do have a free version. I don't know. This one says borrow, but of course they do have a full version right here. This version that you can read. And so again, this is probably one of the first graphic design books ever made. It was put out by Kledinsky, taught and started the Bauhaus School of Design in Germany. Graphic design history, but still, I find that to be a good book. I remember I found this when I was in Columbia. I was in Columbia one year and I was bored. I needed something to read. And so again, if you click on it, it'll take you to a digital version of the book. And if you have, of course, an iPad, you can read it online. Click, see, read online, but that's kind of hard to read online, right? So, of course, they offer all these versions down here that you can download. Of course, the one I use primarily is the EPUB, because that will open in your Mac using iBooks, or on your iPad, of course, using the iBooks there, or your phone or anything. So EPUB works. If you're in Safari, right now I'm in Firefox, which isn't the best to be in. How I search for reading material on this website is if you're in Safari, Safari is made by Apple, of course. If you click the EPUB, it'll automatically recognize it's EPUB and it'll automatically put it right into iBooks. Firefox doesn't do that though, and Chrome doesn't. So just be aware. If I want to download a book and put it onto my iPad so I can read it on my iPad, I can use Safari and then click on that. Another great way of doing it, of course, is a PDF, because you can read it in Acrobat. So, and I think this is what I put on Canvas that one year we were reading it. So here it is. And of course in Acrobat, you can click on pages up here. Acrobat's not the best program, but you can see. You can scroll through. You can download it so it doesn't have to download. So if you want to download, let's say the PDF here, there's of course there's a download button right there, but that download button will put it in the downloads folder. If you want to tell it where you want to download it, you right click on the link and save link as, and then here's the file, and then you can put it wherever you want. So when you right click on something, it allows you to choose where you want to download it. And of course if we look, it's right here on my desktop. Oh, there it is right there now on my desktop, and I can read it anytime without being connected to the internet. And of course this is written, almost 100 years ago, so it's probably not the easiest reading, we'll say. Okay, that's enough of archive. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point it out, though. I find it as a great research tool for going back into history, looking at designs. They got photography. They got everything on there. Everything, videos, music. You can take advantage of it. And, of course, on October 3rd, they have an open house if you want to go to their open house and meet them and talk to them. It's in San Francisco, on the corner of Gary and 19th Avenue. Right, you drive up 280. 280 turns into 19th Avenue, right? As you're going towards the Golden Gate Bridge, go past all those buildings. And then you get to the Golden Gate Park, right? You go to Golden Gate Park, and then you come out the other side, and there's more buildings, right? And then there's a street like Gary and 19th Avenue. There's a big church there. It's a big white Christ Scientist Church. And it's the archive. They have a sign up front. They have an open house on October 3rd if you want to go. I think I'm going to go. It's a Wednesday night, 5 o'clock, 6, 7, party night. I was thinking about it. Might be fun. You can watch videos on it and stuff. Okay, let's move on. Today I really want to talk about Canvas a little bit. We're going to briefly talk about the reading in there, and then we'll talk about your again, if you haven't done your discussion, you should post your discussion in here, and then you should comment on somebody else's design too. I looked at some of them. Very nice. You included the screenshots. I really like it. I'll go through this weekend and comment myself. Okay, so I will come and give you some comments as well. Usually I wait till you're all done first. So try this weekend. I'll go through and see what you post and stuff. So it's a good way to get to know each other and stuff. There is one more discussion as well for this week. Where is it? This one. And some of you have already did this because I've done this in other classes. But again, if you don't know this discussion, this is the talk from my friend Bill, who lives in D.C. And of course, remember, if you want to move to D.C., you just walk into his office and tell him you're my student. You better hire you, not even looking at your portfolio, right? His name is Bill Caldgrove. He talks about what it's like to be a designer today and working at his company and how he became a designer. And he talks about his history, and what he did as a kid and so on. He talks of it as like a zombie nightmare, and so it's kind of it's a little funny. So think about that and read my writing here and comment maybe and post some images. I guess I don't know what I wrote. Okay, so you should read that this weekend if you have time. Of course, this is a good weekend, second weekend of school. There's always a little bit of time. In addition, last class I talked about the award-winning apps. If you have time to watch that video as well, I know there's a lot of things to do. I watched that over the weekend, and I downloaded some of the apps that were there, and I found it very fun. And then, of course, I told you about this last class about the link. This is the game experience designer. And probably the best thing about this would be to look at his kind of experience and then look at his resume. His blog is interesting. It shows you a lot of different writings that he's done, and then work, and then he has some good case studies. So I found his portfolio interesting. You can look at that. And then today we'll briefly talk about the main reading for the week. Again, this is kind of older UX designs, but I kind of like the way that it goes from one week to the other. And I know I put 3 weeks together because it's 52 weeks and we only have a 16-week class, so I jam them all together in your reading. But they're really short. Okay? So this first reading for this week was about the iPad. He wrote this back in 2010 when the iPad was launched. And I kind of like this reading in that, a lot of people, especially Microsoft, said it was going to fail. Same with the iPhone, right? They said the iPhone was never. Remember Steve Ballmer, the CEO of when Steve Jobs was up on the stage. This is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Right? And like 2 days later, Steve Ballmer from Microsoft comes out. He was the CEO or whatever in charge of Microsoft at the time. Oh, that's a piece of junk. Nobody's ever going to spend $500 for a phone, right? Because Microsoft was, insistent that nobody's going to pay $500 for a phone. Right? Nobody. Why would anybody do that? And of course we did. And it wasn't that. It's that AT&T and Apple figured out how to do financing, right? When you bought your first iPhone, you didn't pay cash for it, did you? No, you financed it over 2 years or something. And that's what Steve Ballmer didn't realize at the time, that people would be willing to spend $500 on a phone if they financed it. And we're still financing them today, aren't we? Some of us are, maybe. Again, it was kind of interesting, the reading here, if you have time, if you could read it. And he writes about how, everybody was, saying how it's going to fail. It's a laptop is overkill, whatever. This other part of the reading this week was about creativity. And really, what he's writing about here is that the constraints can add to your creativity. You'll never have somebody come to you and say, okay, I have millions of dollars, you make whatever you want. That's never going to happen that way. Everything follows in a budget. And so the reading here is kind of about that. And it's really short. And then the second reading this week was usability versus beauty. Good designers always work to keep the form, function, and aesthetic quality of design in balance throughout the life of a project. And I guess the whole point here is that you don't need to put in the latest design trends into your design. Then this last part, again, very short reading here. Dreamer of the day. One of the greatest things about being a designer or being an artist or whatever creative energy is that you get to make things that have not existed before, and that's sort of what he's talking about here. And then the last part was usage life cycle. Kind of how the user would interact with your product. They talk about, the stages. You find an app that you're going to use, and you have to learn how to use it. Do you come back to using that product? And then, of course, does the product go away? Then this last reading here is kind of you are not the user. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges that we have as being an interface in UX or UI designer is that you put yourself into the design, right? You're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Well, it's not up to you liking it. It's up to whoever your target audience is, right? And so that's sort of what they're talking about here. And if you don't know who Don Norman is, of course, knowing how people will use something is essential. If you don't know who Don Norman is, he wrote the book Design of Everyday Things. And we have a copy here. If we had our library here, someday we'll have a library here. We'll put it in the library. But and there's plenty of videos on Don Norman. He's like the specialist in design of things. And of course, his famous book that he wrote was The Design of Everyday Things. This book, $11, couldn't go wrong. There it is. Best book ever. Okay, so Don Norman is quoted in this reading right here. And so the other thing they talk about here in this reading is sort of the steps to coming up with the user, right? What are the user steps? And we'll talk about this specifically in this class. Usually towards the middle is when we'll start the process, is what I call the UX design process, and so on. And we'll have guidelines that we'll follow. But I wanted to introduce you to it right here because it was in the reading. Okay, so again, that was here. If you have time, you should read all that, be inspired by it. Okay, you ready to get into the iTunes? Okay, another great place to do research, again, like I was telling you, is on the actual Apple website, the iTunes Apple website, or iStore. I'm sorry, iStore, iTunes. I'm not really sure, but it's a website, and they list all the apps in different categories too. The other nice thing about the website, where you can see apps and look at the designs and so on, is that it makes it in categories, almost like in, remember we were looking at Yahoo before, and it said, oh, Yahoo was not a search engine, it was a directory, human-powered directory. Well, Apple's the same way. Their iTunes store, or whatever it is, the store we're going to look at right now, it has categories. It's So let's say I'm designing an app for, we did national parks last semester, didn't we, right? Okay, I'm designing a national park app. I can go to that category and it lists all the apps in that category. And I can go through the designs and everything. So let's look at that. And I had a link, I don't know where it's at, so I'm just going to have to search for it right now. Oh, spell Google right. You might be, uh-oh, virus. Whoosh. Careful. It is iTunes. So, if you go to, I just searched on Google. So what did I do? I searched on iPhone National Park app. Right? That's what I searched. And so, because I can't remember the address, the address is itunes.apple.com. So yeah, it is there. Let's see if that's the top level here. Oh no, that's that. No, it's not top level. I guess whatever. You get the idea. So again, I'm in the National Park apps. Again, you can have an. Let's see if we got. No, I don't want overview. Oh, here, no. There is a page that actually has a list of a directory of all of them. I'm sure we'll find it, but let's move on. So again, it lists all the national park apps that you can see there. These are probably the ones put out by the government. As you can see, I think these are official ones right here. And it shows you the icon, okay, and these are specific sizes, as you can see. And it'll show you screen grabs of what the app looks like, so good for design research as well. And then it'll give you a description of the app. It'll have some reviews, of course. Some reviews are going to be low stars, some will be high stars. And then it tells you who the developer is right here. So another great thing about doing the research here is it'll tell you, what version and so on. And it has a developer's link. And if you click on the developer's link, it'll take you to who made the app. And it looks like the National Park Service, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I guess the National Park Service makes their own apps. I don't know. Let's see, where was that again? Developers website, yeah, that's what I clicked on. But of course, that's not the only national park apps made by the National Park Service. There's a whole bunch of them made by other people out there. Notice the other thing to keep in mind is that they have iPhone apps, and then they have iPhone apps, and then they have iPad apps. Okay, and the reason why they might split that up is, of course, for design reasons. The iPad has a larger screen, and I think even like last semester, remember some of the apps that we made were either in iTunes or iPhone or in the iPad. So let me see if I can find there was a directory somewhere. Maybe this is the page. Maybe I do have to go to iTunes. I even have iTunes on these computers. Oh, there it is. No, it's because I'm not logged in. Let me try searching Google again. Let's see if we get to the top level. Again, these are apps, are the desktop apps. Oh, this looks like more of a, oh, so we got a whole bunch of apps here. I don't know how I got to this. Free apps, paid apps, top grossing apps. Uh-oh, Fortnite, number one. Who plays Fortnite? I guess if you were 15, you'd be playing Fortnite, right? I don't know. Again, I don't know how I got to this website. I can find a link, but again, one of the advantages of using this is that you can go and look at the designs. You know, iHeartRadio, Spotify, everybody has that on their phone, I'm sure. Again, it'll show you screen grabs. Very simple screen grabs. They do have an iPad version, as you can see. And iMessage, I don't know what that means, but the iPhone, iPad, again, you can see reviews as well as developer's website. Again, you can go to the developer's website and it takes you to, of course, Spotify. So that is, let me go back. And there used to be a search feature somewhere. I used to be able to search for apps. Oh, there's GrubHub. Remember we were looking at this? Again, another great way of doing research. You can see the designs, the interface designs here for GrubHub. And again, you can go down and look at the developer's website. Okay, so mostly I had to do searching, right? I had to do searching. And yeah, Walmart. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so again, great way to do research. One thing about Walmart, I'm going to put Walmart up there just for a moment. I got a new product in Walmart. Walmart is now like Amazon. What I mean by that is if you go to the Walmart website or the Walmart app and you search for a product, even if Walmart doesn't have that product, they sell third party, like Amazon does, right? Amazon, you go to Amazon and it says not sold from Amazon but a third party, right? And Walmart, they did really well. You know, they started planning this many years ago and they've been really pushing their online. They saw Amazon coming and, you know, well, they knew Amazon was there, they just were behind. But they're starting to do that, and so hopefully, you know, since all the stores are closing, you know, around the world, there's Sears, Orchard Supply now. You know, we made a conscious decision to put our products in there. We would never sell them Walmart before. Now I'm selling to Walmart. Kind of Walmart beneath us. We would never sell to Walmart before, but now we do. Okay. Any questions about going there? I don't know. I had to search to find the app. Once I find the main website with the directory, because there is one with a directory, I will send you a link. I know there's one there. I've seen it before, and it has categories, and you can choose your category. Okay, you ready to get back into some hands-on? Right? Okay. So today's discussion will be about oval edges and apps, and if we look at that right now, let's go back real quick to the thing here. Well, even here, as you can see, these icons have these nice round edges here. Okay, not everything is square. So we're going to kind of go back into our interface that we did last class with the thing, and we're going to put some content in the middle. Okay, and we're going to make a new artboard. So I'm going to kind of add on to what I did last class. If, you know, it's okay if you don't add on and whatever. Just have at least practice one interface. But I'm going to talk a little bit about making shapes that are not just square. Right? How do I get oval shapes like that? In Photoshop, you do it one way. Inside of Sketch, you do it another way. And then, of course, in Illustrator, it's a different way. But they're all kind of similar concepts on how you can get things that are not square. Specifically, let's say you're doing a, and one of the assignments you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make a contact list. And it's going to be like 2 weeks from now. We're going to go over how to make, like, let's say you have an app and you have members, right? And I want to have a member. That member has a person who's in a round shape instead of just a square head, right? And, you know, nice oval kind of shape like that. So I'm going to cover that right now, but we're going to make kind of a contact list. In addition, there's a lot of things that have round edges as well. It's very similar in both Photoshop and Sketch on how you do that. In that you make a mask shape, and you use that mask shape to crop out areas. And it's easier and better to do it that way than to delete an area. And the reason why, and what is a mask shape? Let's just talk about that for a moment. So let's say I have a square person, and so we're going to make a little contact list right now. We're going to make one right now. And it's in my app, and I want the person to be in a circle like this, right? A circle. So here's my person, smiley face, whatever, and I want it's just a head. Of course, my photo is going to be square, because everything in the computer is square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, and remember from last class we had layers, right? Layers inside of Photoshop. So one layer will be the photo, and the other layer would be what we call a mask, okay? And then we use the mask to block out the area around here. So in my interface, all you would see would be a circle. It makes this area transparent. That makes sense. Mask. That's the word mask. It's covering. And so I'm going to be using two layers. And the reason why I use a mask to do that is in case I have another person, right? I have a photo here, and then another photo here, and then another photo here, right? I have a whole bunch of people in my list. I can take that same mask and apply it to this one, apply it to that one, apply it to that one, and so everybody's in the same size circle. So you're using one image to do something for multiple things, so they're all the same. Let's try that. I'm going to show you that right now in Photoshop. And I do the same thing in Sketch. Sketch is the same way I do it in Photoshop. I would do it in another program. Illustrator's different. Let's not even go there. Illustrator's different. So I'm going to open up my file from before. And let me hide Firefox here. And let me make this full screen here. And if I have my file still on my computer, I hope I still have it here. It should be under recent items, right? Santa Cruz app, there it is. Uh-oh. Somebody deleted it. I didn't save it, huh? I didn't save it. Somebody deleted my app. Bummer. Let me see if I can find it a different way. Somebody really delete. What was 2 days ago? 4th? Yeah, it's gone. 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 Okay, well that's fine. I will. Let's assume, and let me make one real quick. Again, we were using the iPad, right? Was it the iPad or iPhone 6? What were we using? I think iPad? Retina? Yeah. iPad Retina. So let's get that going here. And I had some colors in there. Let me quickly put some colors in. There's my design from last class. I had some text in there. And it was kind of two layers there. And we had some shapes down there, and then we had a bar across the bottom, right? Bar across the bottom. And it had some icons in there. There we go. And so we had some icons in there. I don't have any icons, do I? What did we use? Oh, we used the custom shape tool. And we had some icons at the bottom there, right? I'm going to do the same icon. Doesn't matter. There we go. Okay. So I have some icons. Whoosh. All the same color. Look at that. If I can find my layers. Okay. So when you're making apps inside of Photoshop or you're making apps inside of Sketch, you have the ability, as well as inside of Illustrator as well, you have the ability to make something called artboards. So whenever I'm making demonstrations or doing examples, or comps in this case, I can take and duplicate all this and make a second one. So let's say this is my opening app. And remember I had some images here or something like that, right? We had a surfing people, right? I can take that, and let's say this is my opening screen, and I want to make an example of my second screen. So I'm going to make an example of a second screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this and make it a completely new design. Okay? Well, not new design, keeping some of the same elements, but I'm going to add to it. So whenever we make, and if you remember looking at the iTunes store, did you see that? They had different screen grabs, right? So I'm going to make multiple screens here in one file in Photoshop. Before I do that, though, I'm going to group all this stuff together. So one of the things about using Photoshop or Sketch or any of them is in your layers, you're going to have multiple layers. In there, you can group things together. So if you notice, this is all one design right here, and you can see it all right here. So I'm going to grab all these pieces and put them into a folder. Just like you would make a folder on your desktop, right? You put your photos in there and put your pictures in. You kind of organize the layers in Photoshop in folders. So here's how I do it. I'm going to go and select all my layers for that design by holding the Shift key down. So again, I can hold the Shift key down. And they're all in the artboard right there. See, that is. I guess we can leave it artboard. I guess we don't have to group it. But if you want to group things together, you can. How about this? We'll group the navigation bar down here together. We don't have to group, because it is all in a folder right now called Artboard 1. You can see it right there. So it's in a folder already. But my whole point is you're going to have a lot of layers, and you can group them into groups as well inside the artboard. So if I go, I'm going to group the navigation, because this is the icons and this is the bar. See, icons, bar, icons, bar. I'm going to group these together so they're organized. I can click on one shape, hold the Shift key down, click on another shape, and then in the upper right corner of the layers window, up here in the upper corner, you'll see there is a pull down menu that I use a lot. I use this pull down menu a lot. So in the layers window, in the upper right corner, there's these little lines up here. That does a lot. What can I do with that pop-up menu? You can make new layers, duplicate layers, delete layers. Quick export, what does that do? It takes everything that was in that layer and export it out as one file, a PNG. Remember we talked about PNG and how important PNG file is? And then you can export as different files as well. You can group things together. You can make a new artboard from here. You can convert to a smart object. Usually I use smart objects when I'm using vectors. There's a mask. Remember we talked to making a mask? We'll go through that today, but a little bit different kind of mask there. And then so on. Let's see what else. Okay, I think that's about it. And these ones down here, let's not even go into. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the one that says new group from layers. See this one, new group from layers? And since these two are selected, it'll put these in a group. And I can call it navigation. And by doing that, you'll notice it puts a folder in here, and there's a little triangle. And all the pieces for the navigational bar are going to be inside there. So try and keep your artwork organized by using folders inside of your layers window. It'll save you when you start making more than one screen. Right now we have one screen. I'm going to duplicate the screen to make a second screen. It's just going to cascade and more and more and more and more. So keeping organized is very useful when you are making designs. Okay, let's go, and I'm going to close this artboard. Right now it says artboard. I'm going to change the name of that by double-clicking on the word that says artboard, and I'm going to change it to opening screen. So again, it's an opening screen. This is my first screen. And you'll notice inside of Photoshop it does say opening screen here. I held down the space bar to give myself a hand to move things around. So when you're working inside of Photoshop, I tend to use two hands. Why do I use two hands? Well, I can click and I can move things around, this window around. Holding the space bar down gives me a hand. I hold the left mouse down and I drag around. So get used to that. It takes practice. It's like driving a car. You'll get used to it. Right? You get in your car, you just turn it on, and you just drive away. You don't have to worry about how much gas I'm giving it, how much brakes I'm giving it, right? Well, once you start using Photoshop or even Sketches the same way, or Illustrator, or any of these programs, the space bar is going to give you a hand, and you're going to be able to go like that. Okay? Okay, let's talk about making a second screen. In this case, I do have opening screen right here. I'm going to duplicate this. This will duplicate all the artwork that's in there for a second screen. To do that, you can right-click on there and say duplicate artboard right there. So again, I right-clicked on there and said duplicate artboard. It's going to make a second screen, and this is going to be my members list. And I hit OK, and notice how it puts it next to it. Now I have two of them that look exactly the same. And I'm going to add some artwork. I'll do that again. I'm going to undo that. There we go. Here we go. Again, in my layers window, I have one that says Artboard 1. I changed the name to Opening Screen, right? I have one opening screen in my design. I want to make a second screen that I'm designing for my screen. To do that, I'm going to right-click on here, or go over here to the pop-up window. Remember the pop-up window over here as well? I can click on that here, or I right-clicked on there. Either way, I can say duplicate artboard. Again, I right-clicked on here and said duplicate artboard there, or again, you can go up here and say duplicate artboard. It's the same kind of menu almost. When you say that, it'll duplicate it, and again, this is going to be my member screen. And I'm going to hit OK, and it puts it kind of next to it. Same size. That's the other beauty of doing this, is that it's going to make the exact same size iPad screen and everything. Okay, you ready for making a member? I need to find some pictures of people, though. Let's go find some pictures of people and put them in here. Again, you might want to lock the opening screen so you don't mess with it. One way to lock it is there is a lock. I think last class we were locking things as well, were we not? Right? So I can lock this entire screen right here. Boom. And that way I'm not messing. Opening screen's done. Waiting for client to approve. Okay, I'm going to just work in the member screen. In fact, I think you can hide this. Can't you hide this somewhere? Is there a way to make it invisible even? There you go. Thank you. That way we don't even have to see it. It's still there. Okay, so if you want, there you go. You can hide it if you want. That way you don't, it's distracting me right now. Okay, I'm just going to work on the member screen up here, and I'm going to have different members. Before I continue, I might lock some of the things like my background. I'm going to lock my text. I'm going to lock that. And my navigation, I'm going to lock that. So all that stuff is locked. because I don't want to, you know, accidentally move it or something like that, right? So you can lock things. So get used to, again, locking, twirling, using the hand, moving this around. Takes time and practice, but I'm sure you can get used to it if you practice a little bit. Okay, let's get some people in here. Now, I don't have photos of people right now, but I'm gonna go steal some people. So where can I steal people? Well, I'm just gonna go to internet. I'm gonna go to the internet and go to Google. Why is Google not my default screen? Let me change Google, my default screen. Where's default screen? Home. Oh, it is Google. No? Blank page? Google. Evil. Whatever. Where's Google? I guess this is Google. I don't know. I'm used to the main Google page. This is like a Firefox version of Google. So what are we putting in? People. People who need people. People. Again, people. I want one person. No, here we go. Abraham Lincoln. Or you want to do what's his Nicole? What's his guy? Or we do Trump. This looks good. We can do a portrait here, but I would like to have some head here. Some people here. We can do Ivanka. We can do Ivanka. How about that? Okay, so I'm going to put this person as a member. So again, I kind of drew on the board what I'm going to make. I'm going to have a person in a little circle, and then I'll put their name next to it, and then we'll put some other artwork on there, like lines and names and stuff like that, whatever. But the important thing to remember is how to make the mask today. So I'm going to copy Ivanka here. I'm going to right-click on it and say Copy Image. I'm going to right-click on it. So if you want to steal anything from the internet, it's very easy to steal from the internet. You can just right-click on an image, say Copy Image, go back to your Photoshop, and say Edit, Paste, and it'll paste that picture in there. Okay, so again, it's just like we did before, where you go copy and paste. I can go to the internet. I'm using the Firefox browser. That's why it says copy. You can right-click. I'm going to open this up. Right-click, copy image, go back to Photoshop, and say Edit, Paste. Every time you copy and paste, it makes a new layer. As you can see, I have one guy here and a second person here. Again, if it's too big, if you remember from last class, you can shrink things down with the, remember this tool right here, the Move tool. And if you remember also, I have the Show Transform Controls at the top, right there. Same one, Show Transform Controls. So I can shrink that down. I can shrink this down. Again, holding down the Shift key when you're shrinking so it stays in proportion. So we're going to have this person. And when you're done shrinking it down, always hit the Move tool right here. It'll make it happen. Same with this one. I'm going to shrink it down as well. I'm going to try and make this person about the same size. Maybe a little bigger. There we go. I'm going to put it there. So again, I shrunk these down. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see them a little better by using the Command plus. Command plus. Okay, so I have members for my app. These guys are members. Okay, so I don't like the square though. What I want to do is I want to put a circle there and just see their kind of their face, maybe their shoulders a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape, and I'm going to use that shape as a mask to just show a round person there. And then I'm going to duplicate that onto Ivanka. I'll do it to this guy first right here. Then I'll go and do it to Ivanka. Ivanka? Is that her name? I keep saying it wrong. I don't know. So in the old days, let's say before I did a mask, in the old days, this is how I might do this as well, is I might use the elliptical marquee tool. So this is a different way. I'm just going to point this out. This is another way. Is that I might use the elliptical marquee tool, and I might draw a circle around the dude, the person here, and then I might go select inverse, which would be opposite of what I just drew, and then I could hit the delete key, and it makes a circle. So that was the old way of doing things. I've been doing that, what I just showed you, since like 92, 93. I've been that, you know, because we didn't have masks and things back then. But in the old days, this is what I would have done. But the problem with that is I have to make this circle the same, and I have to delete, and it's removing art, and I can't move the person around inside there to move them around. The advantage of using a mask to do things is that you can adjust the mask, and then, like I just said, you can apply the mask to other objects, other pictures. So that's not the best way. I mean, that was the old way. That's how I would have done that, probably 95, 96. Old way. Today, though, we tend to use what I said, things like masks and stuff. So the key to making a mask, of course, is to actually make a shape. And so I'm probably going to do it wrong here in Photoshop first, because I get confused on there. So I'm going to use remember the shape tool that we were using last class? Remember this crazy shape? So we use rectangles and so on. Remember rectangles? And then we use the custom shape tool. Remember that? Well, this time I'm going to use the ellipse tool, and I'm going to make a circle around this person. To do that, I'm going to click on the ellipse tool. I'm going to put my cursor kind of where the center is, because I kind of grow the circle from the center out. When I start dragging, oh, I didn't want to do that. Once I start dragging the circle, now notice how it drags from the edge, and I don't want that. If I hit Option key on the keyboard, after you start drawing, it'll draw from the center out. Illustrator does the same thing as well. So again, I'm going to start again. Let me show you that all over again. Again, I'm using this circle tool right here. It's basically a vector ellipse tool right here. And I'm going to put it over the center of this person's face. Now, I'm not going to hit Option first, because if you hit Option first, it thinks you want the eyedropper tool. I don't want the eyedropper tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the left mouse down, and I'm going to start dragging. And notice as I'm dragging, it starts making a shape, but it's making it from kind of the upper left corner, upper right corner. But once I start dragging it, I haven't let go of my mouse yet. I hold the Option key down, and now it starts dragging from the center out. See that? And then, of course, hold the Shift key down to make a perfect circle. And we'll say that looks pretty good. And I'm going to release my left mouse, and I'm going to release my fingers off the keyboard. So now I have an ellipse that I could use to mask out, to get rid of the edges and just see the person in that circle. Then I can use that same circle and duplicate it onto Ivanka. Okay, so that's sort of the key here. So again, in kind of how I do it here is like there. So notice how I have the ellipse on top of the photo. That's important is the layers and how it is layered. So this is, I'm going to call this guy Dude because I don't know his name, if it's okay with you. I'm going to call this one Dude Mask. And then this one I'm going to call Dude Photo. How about that? Okay. So again, I have the mask above the guy, and then I have the guy. Now I want to kind of mask out the guy with the photo. And so let me make sure I do this right. I'm going to right click on it and say create clipping mask. Oh, I did it wrong. Hold on. I'm close. Maybe the photo needs to be on top. Hold on. Create clipping mask. There it is. I had the order wrong. Sorry. I get confused like the rest of us do. I get confused. I'm sorry. The circle is underneath the photo. Okay, so how do I reorder these? I can drag them around in there. There we go. So let me show you that. I can drag them around. So I can take the photo and see how I move them around? I can move them in the layer window here. See that? See how I move everything around? So again, I want the dude's photo to be over top of the mask. So here's the dude's photo, and there's the mask. To do the masking, I'm going to click on the photo, right-click on the photo, and then say Create Clipping Mask from the pop-up menu. There's one that says Create Clipping Mask from the pop-up menu. And there you go. That's a perfect dude in a circle. When we get back to apps and making apps, you can do something similar through programming inside of Xcode, which we didn't do in the first class. But there is a way to do this masking thing actually in Xcode to do, and you can have opacity around the outside.
Could you do that again, please?
Okay, hold on. Yes. So again, do you have an order? Do you see the picture? Yes. Okay. So again, here's the mask. I drew it over top of him, but I'm going to drag it underneath. So the photo, see the photo is on top, right? Photo. Then this mask. You don't see the mask because it's underneath. See the eyeballs, right? Do you see that? Okay. So to do the mask, I'm going to click on the photo. I'm going to right-click and say Create Clipping Mask. It's from the menu. So right-click on the layer and say Create Clipping Mask. And, of course, it'll do the dude. To do Ivanka, yes?
Oh, I was just going to say the shortcut is Command-Alt-G.
G?
Command-Alt-G. The shortcut to do the clipping mask.
Oh, okay. So if I click on a photo, I can do a Command-Alt-G? Yeah?
Yeah, but you need the circle first.
Yeah. Okay, let's do Ivanka now, and then I will come and help you for the last 10 minutes. I can come around and help you. I know this is not easy. So let me do Ivanka next, and then we will move along. So to do Ivanka, I'm going to duplicate this mask. To duplicate the mask, I can right-click on it and say Duplicate Layer. So again, on the mask layer right here, I'm going to duplicate layer. And it's going to ask me for a name. Since I'm duplicating, of course, this is not Dude Mask, but it's going to be, I don't even know how to spell her name, Ivanka, Vanka, like that? Okay. So again, how did I duplicate this mask? I right-clicked on it and said Duplicate Layer to make a second layer. Then I can move it. We can hide the dude if you want. Oh, his mask turned off, didn't it? For some reason, his mask turned off when I duplicated that. I might have to turn that back on. Yeah. Okay, let's move Ivanka's. It didn't like that I did that. I'm going to move Ivanka's mask down here. Let's put it over top so we can align it right. There we go. And then let's put it back underneath. It looked like after I duplicated the mask, it turned it off. So you might have to do that again. What was it? Command-Shift-G?
Command-Alt-G.
Command-Alt-G. Ooh, that worked. You're right. I'm going to do Ivanka now. Command-Alt-G. There we go. That's just going to have to take some practice in order in moving things around in the layer window. The last thing I'll show right now, because we're running out of time real quick here, is that I might, add some elements to my members list, and we'll do this again in our class, where you put some text on the screen here. No, I don't want to do that. I want to make some new text. And let's make that a lot smaller. Members with a Z, look at that. Let's add some color to it. There we go. Members. And then what else? You might have some lines. You might want to add lines. If you look underneath the rectangle tool, remember these objects that I was making here? There's one also called the line tool. And so usually when you are looking at a list, you might have a line that goes across. So you can put lines, and there's a size to the line and different options for your line up here. You can make it thicker and thinner. I don't know if that worked. I don't know, maybe this works. can't tell if that worked or not. Yeah, it's a black line. If you want to duplicate an object, you can copy and paste, or again, you can duplicate the layer here. If you remember, you can duplicate a layer, and then we can move that. You can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move objects around. If you're having problems moving something, I am using the arrow keys on the actual keyboard itself. And so think of the shapes that you have. You'll notice I have all these different shapes, rectangles, round rectangles, ellipses, polygons, and so on. You can use them to make shapes. And then I can bring back my other screen. And so I know this does not look like the best design, but again, the most important thing today is how to make the mask. I will come around now and help you do it. And you can add other objects. This is the best object making thing here. And then think about how the layers are layered inside of Photoshop here. Think about how they're layered in Photoshop there. You can see layers there, and I'm going to save this file. What did I call this? This was Santa Cruz app. And I don't know where. I guess I need to hide it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to stop now. And